Deepa asked a question about what do I think was the top things that helped me the most from an MS perspective. I think you're asking like what helped me get my health on track. I'll tell you what, when I got diagnosed with MS, I had just had my baby. I wasn't sleeping. I had gone back to work and I was working and doing really stressful anesthesia in a really, busy practice. So I think cutting out sugar was key. I was stressed. I was just eating sugar all the time. So cutting out sugar. And then once I was able to actually get a good night's sleep, that was number 2. And then this is a hard one. I had to restructure my life. It was very hard to break up with anesthesia. And I had a lot of fear and doubt because I didn't want to tell my colleagues what was happening. I was hoping my arm would get better and I could come back and work again. I didn't feel really comfortable sharing it at first, but I had to completely revamp my life. I had to give up anesthesia. I had to retrain in other things. So I had to figure out how to live more intentionally and how to reduce stress and how to actually provide space for healing. That was actually the hardest part, which I think a lot of us face with MS. It's a big change.
Yeah. So are there foods to avoid that may be harmful for MS?
Yes, good question. So generally, foods that are natural for us, if we're eating them in normal quantities, they're fine. I would say if there are food sensitivities, right? Because it's pretty common to develop a food sensitivity if you have an autoimmune condition. It's actually kind of a very similar process. Our body's not supposed to make antibodies to our own tissues, but certainly many of us learn to do that to attack myelin. We also learn to attack food molecules accidentally. So cutting out food sensitivities is really important. It's part of a bigger discussion on elimination of foods and reintroduction. It's kind of a protocol you would do. Many of these reactions are subtle. It's very hard to identify them. So I would say, if you wanted just a place to start, cut out gluten and dairy for 6 weeks, see how you feel, and then heavily reintroduce them one by one to see how you feel. Do you feel bad when you eat a lot of gluten for 3 days? Okay. And then the other thing I would say is foods that are bad for us, I would say sugar, if you want to consider that a food, and processed packaged foods. I don't consider those food. If it has a nutrition label on it, it's not, it didn't come from a farm. It's not something you could easily buy at a farmer's market, right? So you're never going to get that down to 0, but the less you could do, and when you choose processed packaged foods, it should have just a few ingredients on the label, hopefully no more than 5. You should be able to pronounce them. When you see things like natural flavors, natural colors, it's so misleading because you're like, oh, it's natural. Like, did they squeeze a strawberry into my yogurt? How nice of them. That's not what they're doing. They're using a chemical compound that smells like strawberries or tastes like strawberries. So anyways, stay away from natural flavors and colors.
Okay, thank you. And Adrian is asking, is it better to eat vegetables raw or cooked?
I mean, I think however you like to eat them is the best way to eat them, right? As long as you're eating them. When we do expose many foods to temperatures, we heat them up, it can deplete some of the nutrients. But I don't want you to get hung up on, oh, I just cooked this thing for 5 minutes and I destroyed it. You didn't. Foods like broccoli, actually, when you steam them lightly and they go from like their regular color to this like beautiful emerald green, that actually can activate a lot of healing components of that food. So I would say don't cook your foods too much where they become mush, but lightly cooking, lightly steaming, having them raw is great. What else? Oh, always cooking in the presence of water is a good thing. When you put things at high temperature for long periods of time without water, you tend to break it down a little bit more. But I'm just happy if you eat vegetables and fruits and colors.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about supplements that contain these nutrients that are bad, that are considered bad for you, like sugar and?
Sure. Well, anything that has a label is not going to be where I would start. We always have a food first approach because it's long-term, it's going to be more sustainable. It's going to give you all of these added nutrients that are found in that one fruit. When you eat an orange, you're not getting just vitamin C. You're getting hundreds of compounds that work together that probably help that vitamin C get absorbed better. So again, it's reductionistic thinking where we think, let me just squeeze this food down into a powder and put it, into a capsule. We know that supplements don't get absorbed as well as food. So because our bodies weren't made to do that, our GI tracts are made to bind and pull in food molecules. So use your GI tract, put food in it. The goal is to get a lot of color in your diet every day, hopefully every color of the rainbow every day. But if there's an issue, like you actually have so many food sensitivities that you have a really limited, narrow diet, I think that's a good case for doing a supplement that has a lot of these foods in the powdered form, just because it'll be easier to just get it in you. Okay. But food first, always, always.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Julie is asking about materials to avoid cooking in. Do you want to talk about that? That's
a good one. I mean, I'm generally all about stainless steel and cast iron. I know that they're sticky, right? Your food can stick to them. There are ways if you're patient to sit there and, make sure food doesn't stick. There's lots of YouTube videos online that you could look at to how to prepare your pans so your eggs don't stick. But I actually don't care if my eggs stick. I'm just happy there's no Teflon in my eggs. People talk about ceramics. I actually think there's not enough data to recommend them as safe cookware. Do you agree or disagree, Roberta?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And they don't last very long. They become sticky anyways, right? The eggs would stick like at some point too. So yeah.
Yeah. And when that coating is like starting to chip off, not only are you getting it in your food, but when you heat up Teflon or other nonstick cookware, you're actually volatilizing materials like PFOAs. These are toxins that are found in a lot of these nonstick materials, and you're breathing them and getting them in your body anyways. So stick to stainless steel and cast iron. They're heavy. I hate, I'm small. I have a hard time lifting my heavy pots and pans. And every time my mom comes, she's like, your pots and pans are so heavy. And I'm like, yeah, because they're not Teflon. But anyways, brands, I don't know. I think Cephalon is one that's the only brand I can think of. But also don't go to Costco and buy the 20-piece set. You don't need 20 pieces. You just need a few things that you're going to use. Keep it simple. Invest in good stuff. Take good care of it and don't overbuy.
Yeah. So what about copper?
Ooh, copper. Yeah, it's not my favorite one. I mean, like you don't want to continually get exposed to copper. You also don't know if it's just fully copper or maybe it wasn't high quality and there's other metals in there, aluminum, other things. So I would just stainless steel and cast iron are the two things I'd stick to. Yeah. Any other questions? Last chance. We're getting close to the end. We have 5 minutes actually.
Well, we have one more here from before. How much of each nutrient do you need to make sure you are well covered? Make sure you're eating well, you're well nurtured.
Oh, that's a hard one to answer. I don't know. Would you look at the back of a multivitamin and see what they list as the recommended daily allowance? I don't think that we humans think about food in terms of milligrams and servings. And I'm kind of proud to say I actually don't know what serving sizes are for most foods because I don't think about calories and serving sizes. I think about whether or not this is a plant or not. I think about, did I get all the colors? I try to stick to whole foods, things that are unprocessed. But you don't need giant amounts of nutrients every day. You need a little bit all the time, and your body will figure it out as long as there's variety in your diet. I know some of you may have limited diets because of food sensitivities or a lot of health issues. When people kind of fall under 20 different foods, they're eating less than 20 foods per week. That's concerning. So, you may be at risk of becoming depleted of certain nutrients. So keep variety in your diet. A good rule of thumb is 50 foods per week. So get a piece of paper on your dining table or wherever you eat. And for 7 days, you get to write each food down one time. You get credit for each ingredient one time. I give you credit for salt and pepper too. But the way you can cheat it up is to do spices, herbal teas, and lots of color. So, and then as far as like how much of this stuff do you need, aim for every color of the rainbow every day, 1 to 2 times, small amounts. We're not asking you to eat giant amounts of food, but just a little bit all the time.
Okay. Now we have a bunch of questions here in the Q&A box. Do you want to see and go through them? They were not showing for me. Thank you for letting me know. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can do some of these quickly. Silicone, no, I don't like it. I've seen some data that says that it's not good. Monk fruit, is it okay? Yes, but keep it to a minimum to sweeten whatever else you're eating. Frozen fruits and vegetables, yes, especially if you can't get them fresh or they're out of season and you can't get them organic. You can get organic berries, for example, that are frozen. And actually flash frozen fruits and vegetables don't lose a lot of their nutrients. So, and that helps a lot of people because of budget or just access to food. So yes, frozen's okay. Fresh is better, but frozen's okay too. Breakfast ideas. Oh, I have lots of ideas, but that would take time, Laureen. Thanks for asking. I'll refer you to some resources. Let's see. Quinoa. Quinoa, is it a grain? I don't know if quinoa is exactly a grain. I don't know exactly. It does have a good amount of protein in it. It's a good protein source if you're plant-based. So, you know, it's not going to be the main part of your diet, but make sure there's a lot of vegetables and other plant-based foods around your quinoa. Christy says, I don't do any of the shopping and my partner has no idea what he's doing. Any ideas how to teach him without being there?
What about making a list together?
Yeah.
So I was excited about having the husband like going to do, but the partner going to shopping. So I'm like, okay, let's make a list. I jumped in.
Yeah, you put the effort into making the list, and then you give him a gold star when he does a good job of bringing that stuff home.